I'll try to answer your question. Okay. So now as all of you have joined this session, we'll start with this session about risk management. So basically what is risk? If you want to define the risk, risk is the risk is an expectation of loss or potential risk for you, and it is generally caused due to lack of information because you are not aware of what that problem is. Lack of control, you don't have control over it. Somebody or someone else has done that, or you don't have appropriate information at the right time. So possibility of suffering from loss in software development, this is called as software risk. Risk is a generic term, but for software risk, a possibility of suffering from loss in software development process. So we are focusing on software development process, and that is called as a software risk. Now, loss can be anything. There are multiple types of software risks that I'll explain in further slides. But loss can be of any type. It can be anything. Increase in production cost. Maybe you have decided some budget initially, and there is some increase in the production cost. Development of poor quality software because you're not following these coding standards and all these things, testing standards. So poor quality software. Not being able to complete the project on time. So there is some miscalculations in completion time. So all these lead to some kind of loss to the organization and to the software development process. So software risks exist because the future is uncertain. We don't know what is going to happen. Maybe you have started the project with considering that you have 6 developers, and if after 1 month 1 developer exits, then that is because you don't know about that condition. It is we call it as future is uncertain, and there are many known and unknown things that cannot be incorporated in the project plan initially. So we have to be ready for all these kind of risks. So these are called as risks, which may or may not happen in the future software development process, and that is the subject of this session and this presentation. Now, software risk can be of 2 types. There can be some internal risks, or there can be some external risks. So internal risks are kind of the problems which are internal to the organizations, so that are within the control of project manager or the program manager or the product manager type of the company. And external risks are which are beyond the control of the project manager. So because of some supplier, vendor, if some risk is happening, because of some compliance, some risk is happening. So all these are external risks. So we are going to discuss all these things in details. So if you go to the next page on the PDF, risk management is carried out to. There are 4 bullet points: identify the risk, reduce the impact of the risk, reduce the probability or likelihood of the risk, or the when the risk may occur, and risk monitoring. So we are going to discuss all these 4 steps of risk management in details. So if you can go to the next page, I have given estimation and scheduling. The unique nature of individual software project, because every software project is different. The requirements are different, the project plan is different, the testing plan is different, the deployment is different, the client environment can be different. So unique nature of individual software projects creates problems for developers and managers in estimating and scheduling development time. So always monitor existing projects so that you apply lessons learned in the future projects. So that is the kind of risk which may happen in case of estimation or scheduling of a project. That is the first type of risk. And then the second type of risk is sudden growth or sudden changes or frequent changes in the requirements from the client side or from some third party or some external agencies. As the project progresses, issues that are not identified earlier can create a last minute order, last minute change, and that can create problems for meeting deadlines. So try to think big. Try to think about some things which may come from the client during the development process. So try to think big early in the project and anticipate the worst case or the heaviest use scenario. And if you think that your project can complete in 2 months, always have 15 to 20 days spare in your hand. That is to incorporate all these sudden changes or last minute changes. Then the third type is employee turnover. Every project has several developers working on it, several teams working on it. BA's team will be working on it, the testing team will be working on it. So when a developer leaves or any team member leaves, that person, he or she may take critical information with him or her. So we have to be ready with contingency plan, we have to be ready with the backups, and we have to be ready with the handover processes and all these things. And all these things will take some time. It will create some delay and sometimes derail the entire project. So ensure you have resources where team members can collaborate and share the knowledge. So this is about employee turnover risk. Fourth is breakdown of specification. This is a very important risk. During the initial phases of integration and coding, requirements might conflict because there is a separate team, different team, which is responsible for requirement gathering and documenting those requirements. Generally, it is done by BAs. And then the requirements come to the development team. The project manager or the program manager will go through the list of requirements. So there can be a conflict, there can be a kind of misunderstanding between the actual requirements and the requirements which have been given to the development team. So moreover, developers may find that even the specifications are unclear or maybe incomplete. So that is a kind of very important risk which you have to consider. Proper process implementation, conflicting priorities, or lack of clarity in the responsibilities. So all these things, all these types of risks are possible if you don't have a definite procedure in place, if you don't have any testing cases, testing plan in the place, if you don't know how to report the bugs, how to report the defects, and how to work on those defects. So all these things has to be in place, or there can be some procedural risk that may happen in the project plan. Then the next type is technical risk. Sometimes software development firms reduce the functionality of the software to compensate for overruns, which is the requirement of the end user or the client. And there can be some unavoidable risks which can come in the your problems are beyond your control. So these are kind of unavoidable risks. So you have to take care of all these kind of software risks in your project plan or project schedule. So that is all I have given on that slide. So if you go to the next slide, we are talking about a project manager has to deal with risks arising from three possible cases. So there are three possible scenarios or cases from where the possible risks can occur. And project manager has. Am I going too fast? Can we continue? Are you there? Hello? Yes, are you there? Yes, okay, fine. So I got the reply from at least few of you. Fine. So known nodes, known unknowns, and unknown unknowns. So what is the meaning of known nodes? So known knowns are software risks that are actually facts known to the team as well as to the entire project. For example, not having enough number of developers can delay the project delivery. Such risks are described and included in the project management plan itself. So these are known knowns that somebody may leave, some developer may leave, some tester may leave. So we may be having some backup plan. So if a project is having, these are risks that the project team is aware of, but it is unknown that such risk exists in the project or not. For example, if the communication with the client is not of good level, then it is not possible to capture the requirement properly. Elicitation problem. So this is a fact known to the project team that if there is some problem in the communication, or maybe client is comfortable in local language and we are comfortable in English and Hindi. So this is a known problem, but we don't know whether this problem will occur in this project or not. So that becomes known unknowns. The third category is unknown unknowns. So these are kind of risks about which the organization has no idea. Such risks are generally related to technology, such as working with technology or tools that you have no idea about because your client wants you to work with that technology. Maybe a client wants you to design solution using blockchain, but you are not aware of blockchain at all, and you are hiring the new team for blockchain. Even the team is new, you are not aware of that team also. So these are all unknown unknowns. So these are the three categories: known knowns, known unknowns, and unknown unknowns, from where all the risks can arise. These are the possible cases from where the risks can arise, and project manager has to be aware of all these kind of risks. Now, software risk management is all about risk quantification, and which includes giving a precise description of risk event that can occur in the project, defining the risk probability, at what frequency that risk may occur, and that would explain what are the chances of risk to occur in the complete project life cycle, ability potential of a risk. So these are kind of risk quantifications of software risk management. So risk management comprises of 4 processes basically, and that is the last part of this session. Risk management, when we say risk, third is software risk planning, and last is software risk monitoring. So we'll go to all these steps one by one, and we'll complete this session with the explanation of these 4 steps. So first is software risk identification. Now, in order to identify the risk that your project may be subjected to, it is important to first study the problem faced by various previous projects. Do you have converting it to a flow chart? Generally, you should convert your complete project plan in the form of flow chart or maybe activity diagram. It is important to conduct few brainstorming sessions to identify the known unknowns that can affect the project, and any decision taken related to technical, operational, political, legal, social, internal or external factors should be evaluated properly. So all these things are important from a project management perspective. Political, yes, there can be some political angle also, legal, social, internal and external factors. In this phase of risk management, you have to define processes that are important for risk identification. So we are into risk identification, so our focus should be on risk identification. All the details of the risk, such as unique ID, date on which it was identified, description and so on, should be clearly mentioned in the risk identification phase. The second phase is software risk analysis. Now, software risk analysis is a very important aspect of risk management. In this phase, is it a critical risk? Is it a high risk? Is it a medium level risk? Is it a low risk? Or is it a kind of informational level of risk? And accordingly, what can be the mitigation plan for that risk? How to deal with that risk? After the categorization of risk, the level, likelihood, the percentage, and the impact of the risk is analyzed. Sequences of a risk, in case it happens. What will be the impact on business? What will be the impact on the reputation of the business? What will be the impact on the completion deadlines? So all these kind of impacts, which are the consequences of a. So majorly, generally, what questions we should ask to know the impact of that risk is, what will be the loss to the customer? What will be the loss to the company? Are there any legal actions possible against the company because of this risk? Is there any cancellation possibility of business license or some compliance part of software risk analysis? Then the third step is software risk planning. Software risk planning is all about defining the preventive measures that would lower down the likelihood or probability of various risks. Define measures that would reduce the impact in case of risk happens, and then constant monitoring of processes to identify the risk as early as possible. And that is the starting point of the 4th phase, which is software risk monitoring. Software risk monitoring is integrated into project activities, and regular checks are conducted on top of risks. Software risk monitoring comprises of tracking of risk plans for any major changes in actual plan, attributes, preparation of status reports, project management. So all these are regular search for new risk and everything, which are standard processes. Monitoring processes. You should keep a check of all the things, what is happening in your project, deadlines and the budget and everything. So that is software risk monitoring phase. So this is all about software risk management, the meaning of software risk, and how software risk management is done in generally in the SDLC or the different phases of SDLC. So that's it from my side. This was the last session of SQPA. And with this session, we are completing all the syllabus which has been shared with me, and I have completed the internal evaluation also, and that is the official end of the SQPA subject for this term. Now, if you have any questions, the session is open for question and answer. You can type your questions, and I can try to answer your questions. everything, we have some procedures and processes in place. Like we have discussed the concept of defect management process. It's a process. How to maintain the records for that defect or bug, how to reopen those defects, then how to write the test plan, how to create a test report. So these are the defined processes. And then if you follow this process, now why the process, why these processes are in place in a company? Because after working for a long period, company or the company management thinks that if we do certain things in a standard format with some standard documents, then we will get optimized output. And have certain set of processes for requirement gathering, how to gather the requirements. Your company may have some policy or process, and if you follow that process, because that is the output, that process is the output of hard work done by multiple previous employees, previous teams for number of projects. So that is a procedural risk. If you don't follow the procedure, the risk will be on higher side. Employee turnover, you must have heard the concept of bench. Now, large organizations, why they go for benches? Because maybe they are having certain number of projects in hand, and all the projects are in a production phase. Certain teams have been allocated for those projects. But considering that even if 50% of each project team leaves the company, the project should not get impacted. That much of bench strength should be with us. So that is the meaning of employee turnover. Madhuparna. Yes. Any other questions? So exactly we have completed 27 minutes. I told you I'll take not more than 30 minutes from your personal time. So we have finished our session in 27 minutes. Thanks to all of you. As there are no questions from your side, I consider that you have understood all the concepts, and I'll end this session here. Thank you all of you to come and attend this session at this point of time. Best of luck. I'll be in touch with you, and I'll share all the important notes and everything as I have discussed with you in a short time. Thank you.